Hi, everyone, and welcome. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box and let us know where you're joining us from today. For this session, we're joined by Simone Ranson, the Head of Digital and Design at Turn2us. Just before handing over to Simone, I just want to share a few house rules and pointers for today's session. The session is being recorded and will be uploaded to watch on demand at a later date. The slides and other resources will also be made available to you, so don't worry if you've missed anything. During the webinar, please ask questions in the Q&A section to address at the end of the presentation, and feel free to share any other comments, experiences, or top tips in the chat. Finally, if you encounter any sound or image issues, please let us know in the chat, and we'll do our very best to get the session back to normal as soon as we can. Without further ado, let me hand over to Simone.
Thanks, James. Hi, everyone. I'm from Turn2us, and I'm going to talk a bit about our process of designing digital products in co-production with our users. I'll do a quick overview of Turn2us and what we do, just to outline our digital tools and put things into context. I'll speak a bit about our journey integrating co-production into all of our work, and take a look at our co-production ladder and what each rung means. I'll talk through some examples of how we've used different rungs on different products, and where to use each level. And then finally, I'll look at some key learning we've gained through this process. To start, just a quick overview of Turn2us and what we do to put things in context. So we are a national charity offering information and support to people in financial insecurity. And we provide a variety of services to people to help maximise their income. So we work with partner organisations to give grants to individuals. Financial insecurity is often a result of wider issues. So by working with partner organisations to give grants, this enables further wraparound support for individuals that's personalised to them. We also know that our digital tools don't reach everyone. So our local programmes team is working in specific communities for up to 10 years to explore how our resources as a national charity can help support and value the great work that they're already doing. And we're also working with other organisations to tackle the stigma associated with the social security system and try and challenge the policies and systems that cause it. But mostly we're a digital first organisation, and the majority of the people we reach is through our digital channels. And we have four main channels. So we have our benefits calculator, which gets about 2.5 million calculations a year. This asks people about their finances and situation, identifies any benefits, both means and non-means tested, that they're eligible for. We also have a grant search, which has around 1,400 grants from grant-giving organisations. On here, people can input information about their personal circumstances, and we can identify any grant that they can apply for. Then last year, we launched our PIP Helper tool, which helps users through the process of applying for personal independence payments, and shows them how to challenge the outcome if needed. And then finally, we have our website, which provides users with information about the benefit system, what support they can get related to their personal situation. So around 5 or 6 years ago, we began embedding co-production across the organisation in everything we do, and this was both for our online and offline services. And for us, co-production is creating products and services in partnership with the people that we exist for, and sharing power in the decisions that are made. So it's a combination of lived experience along with professional knowledge to help create better products. So we began by developing a co-production framework, which was in partnership with our co-production partners. And this was based on Sherry Arnstein's ladder of involvement. So this has obviously evolved over the last 5 years to include a framework, toolkit and processes to ensure that we're doing it in a standardized way across the organisation. And I think to say it's a testament to the organisation's commitment to the process that a co-production manager was appointed. This enabled the resource to build the framework and ways of working, but also to help embed the process across all teams in the organisation. So at Turn2us, we have four main types of involvement. So co-production, co-design, engagement, and consultation. And I think the bottom two, I'm sure everyone here is very familiar with, but these are included as part of the co-production framework, as what rung on the ladder you decide to work on depends very much on what the project is and what you're trying to achieve. I would say try and aim as high as possible up the ladder as you can, but be realistic and don't try to shoehorn it in. This doesn't benefit the organisation, and co-production partners might feel it's a bit performative if you kind of have it at the wrong level and it's a bit too high. So a bit more detail on each level. So co-production is done with co-production partners. So it's a project with a shared vision and goal. And the key bit on co-production is it has been decided with co-production partners from the outset. So it's a partnership of equals. Everyone's input has the same value, and all decisions are made jointly. So co-production partners are involved through the process from conception through design to delivery. Uh, then there's co-design. So co-design is a project in which you work with co-production partners towards the same vision and goal. But here, decisions during conception are made by the organisation. So again, it's a partnership which everyone's input has the same value. Co-production partners are involved throughout the design, and all design decisions are made jointly. But the implementation and delivery of the service rests with Turn2us staff. But staff are led by the input of co-production partners. So engagement, you decide on your project needs to go before involvement from co-production partners, and it's kind of done for co-production partners. So while designing your product, you bring in lived experience by regularly inviting co-production partners to express their views in various ways. So decision making is shared, but you choose whether co-production partners' lived experience influences the decisions that you make. And then finally, consultation. So you decide on your project and its goal before any involvement from co-production partners. You gather information by inviting them to filling surveys, attend meetings, or say which proposal they prefer, what they think about an issue. And you draw conclusions and make decisions based on your knowledge you learn. And the knowledge you learn here is limited by the scope of the questions that you decide to ask. So different levels of co-production are used for different projects, but all are equally valid. And you need to decide what the most appropriate level is for the project that you're working on. So to give you some examples of where we've used different rungs on the ladder, development of our PIP helper tool was done in full co-production with partners. So first of all, identifying the need. So we know that applying for PIP is a very complex and difficult process. And we know our information pages around PIP receive high traffic. So we started off with a really broad requirement. So we need to do something to help people navigate the complexity of applying for PIP and help them apply. The stats show that only around just over 40% of PIP claims are successful initially, and around 70% claims are awarded on appeal, which shows a difficulty in the initial process, but also the prolonged application process by often to have to go to appeal. So this wasn't just about filling in some forms. This was broader, and we wanted to take into consideration the emotional toll that this had on people applying for PIP. So recruiting co-production partners. So bearing in mind the broad requirement we had identified, we wanted to recruit disabled people with lived experience of applying for PIP. So this was to help us understand how they work through the process, but also what was their experience? How can we help other people, and what other support can we offer? So we used several avenues to recruit our co-production partners. We had our co-production pool in the organisation. We also used adverts, including videos. This was across our website, social media, and we shared these through our networks, partner sites, and also spoke to other disabled charities to find some of their users. And we also made sure that all our adverts are fully accessible. So as a standard, our web platform meets AA standard as a minimum, AAA where possible. But for PIP, because of the audience we were working with, we wanted to make sure that everything we did was AAA accessible. So we ran our co-production in workshops, and these were generally around 3 hours long. And the workshops included co-production partners, product owner, UX, UI, and anyone who's kind of involved in the project. And everybody's input was equally valid. Um, and because of the audience who we were working with, to ensure that everyone was able to take part in the sessions and have equal access, we also put in place support to meet any requirements. So signing for hearing impaired participants, support for visually impaired participants. So there was no barriers to engagement within the workshops themselves. And then, interestingly, for this project, we also had a separate group that formed out of the main group, and this was to look specifically around issues around mental health. So this was run and facilitated by the co-production partners themselves, admin and the other support provided by Turn2us. And this was actually instigated by the co-production partners, not through Turn2us. So the PIP tool was created in full co-production, conception through design, development stages to launch, with the design of the tool, including writing content, creating videos, structure of the tool, and user journeys, all done in full co-production. So looking at co-design, we wanted to rebuild our benefits calculator, and this was done in co-design with our co-production partners. The reason for co-design rather than full co-production was that we already had a benefits calculator. So this was a redevelopment rather than a greenfield product. So the vision and goal for the tool was already in place. We had the backend algorithm. We knew what the goal of the tool was. So we wanted to redevelop the front end, the design, the user journey, UX, UI, etc. So again, to recruit to the group, we know the audience for the benefits calculator is extremely wide. So we wanted to get a diverse group of co-production partners with a wide variety of personal situation and access needs. So, and again, provide support when needed to ensure that everyone has equal access to the workshops. And this was one of our first co-designed digital products. And for this, we recruited through our own channels, such as website, socials, emails, etc. And this group was generally people who are aware of us as a charity. Um, Again, we ran co-production workshop of around 3 hours. So these started off in person at the end of 2019 and very quickly became online only around March 2020 for obvious reasons. And so this itself created its own challenges at the time for allowing people to have access remotely to the sessions. But I think like the wider acceleration of digital adoption caused by COVID, it speeded up our development to be able to run these sessions remotely, which going forward has given us a chance to people to have more access to these sessions. And we also started using a Slack channel for co-production partners to give quick fire feedback on any questions or queries that came up between sessions, which was really helpful and a good learning and kept momentum on the project in the group. So having some sort of messaging tool for people to continuously feedback, something we've continued to use across all of our projects. And for these workshops, we also asked the benefit specialists from the organisation to attend and be part of the Slack group. So this is so they could answer any benefit-related questions that came up. So the benefit systems is really complex, and it helped the group think about solutions, but having the full information whenever they needed it. So the benefits calculator was co-designed with the co-production partners, but with the existing vision and tool, implementation and delivery sat with Turn2us, but it was guided by the input of co-production partners. For engagement, so we wanted to make a technical upgrade to our website. And as we were undertaking a full redevelopment, we saw this as an opportunity for a review and redesign. So we knew what functionality we needed on the website. We also knew broadly what information we needed on the site. So we also had compliance requirements that we all need to meet, cookie policy, data protection, accessibility, security, things like that. So the project and goal was defined by the Turn2us team. And then, like everyone else, we have various audiences on our website. So for this work, we chose to concentrate on two key audiences. So people in financial insecurity, but also advisors. So people who work to support and advise people in financial insecurity who use that information and tools in their work. So for people in financial insecurity, again, we ran workshops with co-production group. The advisor group, we run some sessions, but there was less sessions and more one-to-ones. And this was mostly due to their capacity and the best way we can engage them. So when you're thinking about your co-production group, think about what works for them that you can get the best engagement. And we also wanted a mixture of engagement from people familiar to us, as well as people who didn't know us. as those who know us will kind of know what services we offer and where to find information. Where we wanted the website to work for everyone, even if they come to us brand new. So recruitment was a mix of through our own channels and externally for people who we were not familiar with. So we identified key points of engagement where we want to engage co-production partners. So this included information architecture, menu structure, menu page names, labels, templates, user journeys, things like that. And the techniques we used were ones that you are all familiar with. So card sorting, group sessions, one-to-one interviews, journey mapping. And then the learnings from this engagement, taking alongside all the other research analysis that we've been doing on the current website. Um, Again, ensure there's equal access for people who are working in co-production with you. So where we included people for who English was a second language, made sure there's a translator available to help them to complete any tasks. And I'll just touch briefly on consultation, as I'm sure everyone's very familiar with this. So consultation, the project and goal is again decided by Turn2us. With the launch of the new PIP Helper tool, we wanted to ensure that all of our flagship tools are on the homepage banner, so users could easily find them. Um, so this level of co-production has a very narrow remit. The knowledge and expertise of the team and UX designer was used to create mock-ups of the homepage and the homepage banner. Co-production partners were asked for their feedback on which design they preferred and why, and also to give feedback on any improvements that could be made. So decisions about the design were informed by the feedback received, but ultimately decisions were made by the product team. So some key learnings that we've gained over the last 5 years. So make sure you factor co-production into your timelines. It really does take time, but it is time well spent. And so you need to invest in time from the beginning because it's time to recruit people, takes time for everyone to get up to speed on what co-production actually is, and also takes time to build a functioning team where people feel safe to contribute. And also takes time to investigate and respond to all the great ideas that come out of these co-production sessions. Um, Create a co-production framework for your organization that the organization signs up to. Having a purpose and principles which everyone works by makes you accountable to co-production partners and the products and services that you design. Having a practical toolkit helps you enables the co-production process to be more effective and helps to embed goods practice across the organization. And also having a toolkit and template staff can use makes the process easier. So, for example, we have contracts for co-production partners, safeguarding training specifically for them, and processes in place to ensure the smooth payment. And all of this makes generally life easier. Um, Provide training for co-production partners. So they'll have lived experience, but they'll also have life and professional experience. But make sure they're trained in your organization's ways of working. For example, your code of conduct and safeguarding. Um, Ultimately, we're all part of the same team and need to have an agreement on how we work together. And safeguarding is really important. So you can be working with some very vulnerable people, and often people will share their personal stories, which can be quite traumatic. So they and you need to know how to respond in that situation. I think this one is key. So pay your co-production partners. Their time is valuable. So pay for their time along with any other expenses they may incur, and think about the real time. So if they're coming in for a workshop for 3 hours, but they have pre-reading to do, make sure they're compensated for that time as well. Um, and also be flexible about how you pay them. So, for example, as an anti-poverty charity, payments that we make may affect somebody's benefits. So work with them to work out what's best for them, obviously within the legal framework. Um, think about any additional benefits you can offer your co-production partners. So whereas engagement and consultation can be seen as transactional, sort of whole co-production and design is based on shared knowledge and learning. So find out what else co-production partners want or can get out of the process. For example, would they like to gain facilitation skills for another aspect of their life? If so, how can you support them to get those skills? Um, this one is hard. So share power. Um, be aware of the power you have as a paid employee of an organization. So, and that power dynamic will be there. So acknowledge it. So co-production is about learning from each other and working together in a way that everyone feels heard and their opinion matters. Um, Avoid scope creep. I think this is something we're all quite familiar with. There are lots of areas that are interconnected, so be clear from the beginning what's in scope. This goes for the project, but also for the wider organisation. So ideas may come up that are outside the remit of your organisation. So having this clarified from the beginning helps it make it easier to identify and flag when there is scope creep. And then finally, so learn and iterate. So share your learnings, get feedback from co-production partners, what's working, what isn't. So we share this across the organisation so we can learn from each other and then we can continue to improve. Any questions?
Hello. Thank you so much for that presentation, Simon. That was really interesting. Um, just still waiting for a few questions to come through. And I know you've touched on it already, but you said about making like a collaborative environment and making sure everyone was safe to contribute. What would you say is your top tip for making that environment for everyone to be able to feel confident enough to raise their voices?
I think it's around communication. So you need to build those relationships, and building any relationship takes a bit of time. So you really need to invest that time up front. And do sort of some contracting at the beginning, make sure everyone's clear and make sure everyone's heard as well and respond to things. People may come up with ideas that are a bit out there or not within scope, but you need to address them and explain why they can't be done.
Yeah, so even if it's not achievable, not making feel people say that they've said something wrong or their input isn't valid just because it's not within the scope of the work.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Perfect. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to pop them in the Q&A box. Oh, we've had one submitted. How do you identify and approach the right people to be involved in co-production? That's a good question.
So I think find out what people you think about what people you're looking for, depending on what project you're working on initially. And we do kind of have an application process. So we have, if somebody is overly vulnerable or not quite clear what's happening, then you can have a sort of not an interview, but have an informal session. And having the support of a co-production manager or officer within the organisation really helps sort of to help everyone work in the same way across the organization.
Yeah, you're considering, I guess, all aspects then of that relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, keep the questions coming through. Any others at the moment? I'll give it a few just because I think with the, streaming, there's slight lag just in case there's any more questions. Okay, I think we will call it there.
Okay.
But yeah, afraid that's all we've got time for. Thank you again, Simon, for, oh, we've had another one. Um, how can we get buy-in for co-production within the charity team?
I think that's yeah. So that
Very good question.
that takes over. I think it's sort of show in the benefits of co-production. So I'm sure everybody is kind of doing the consultation kind of work. Um, Show what benefits it gives in improving your products and services
Mm,
by doing them in co-production. And also there's lots of research out there, starting with Sherry Arnstein's kind of ladder involvement, and then look at other charities and see what they're doing and kind of show those examples of where stuff's been improved.
yeah, that's a good question. Had another one. Are there small actions we can take to involve users in decision making more if we don't have the resources to do full co-production or co-design?
I think if there's a specific thing that you're trying to work on, then you can rather than have so a full co-production group obviously is a lot of resource and a lot of time. So if there's one specific thing you want to work on, sort of drill down into that and then involve people. And you can use your own channel, so you can use social, you can use your email list and things like that, or even just sort of advertise on your website
Mm,
and get people involved in the specific thing that you're looking at.
yeah, that does make sense. Any more questions? Okay. No, all good. Well, thank you again, Simone, for joining us today. Our next session is at 11 a.m. and it's the state of service delivery with our very own head of content here at Charity Digital, Johan Mark Jones. So we will see you shortly for that. And yeah, thank you again, Simone. That was really great.
Thanks. You're welcome.
Thanks very much.